In 2015, the residents of Footscray in the western suburbs of Melbourne secured a curfew on heavy trucks from the Andrews Labor government. Footscray is my home, so I know what a huge win this was for the local community, and it was a triumph for grassroots and community campaigns. Massive trucks powering down our residential streets have caused massive problems of diesel pollution, noise, amenity through their sheer bulk dominating the streets, and they endanger people's lives. Yet 8 years later, the Andrews government has failed to adequately enforce and monitor the curfew, and Footscray residents continue to be appallingly impacted by the continuous presence of heavy trucks and road trains. The massive problems of these massive trucks continues. About 25 road trains use Footscray's Moore Street every day to deliver material to the Westgate Tunnel project, as well as around 2,000 other trucks. And despite a statement in 2018 by the Premier that material for this project would be delivered by rail freight, Footscray's streets have become a major thoroughfare for road trains and heavy vehicles delivering material to the Westgate Tunnel project. And disappointingly, a growing number of these trucks have exemptions from the government to access residential streets in the area. These trucks have a huge negative impact on the well-being and health of this community. Constantly breathing in diesel pollution from dirty vehicles is bad for people's health. A recent study by the University of Melbourne found that air and traffic pollution likely claims more than 11,000 Australian lives every year. And I have heard countless stories from residents who have been woken in the night by the loud noise of trucks turning or accelerating through their streets. Many people have told me how difficult it's been to get their children to sleep through the night, and others shared how they've begun to experience ongoing sleep deprivation. But even more alarmingly, not only are these heavy vehicles disturbing the sleep and hearing of residents of Footscray, but they are endangering the lives of pedestrians and cyclists. Just a month ago, a 22-year-old cyclist, Angus Collins, was tragically killed by a truck on Footscray Road at an intersection that was made incredibly dangerous by the construction of the Westgate Tunnel. And my heart goes out to his family and friends. And I recently heard from Elizabeth, a local resident, who was nearly run over by a truck while walking to school with her son. She told me that while turning left from Moore Street in Footscray, the truck mounted the curb and came so close to her and her son that she could have touched it with her hands. Elizabeth told me that the experience left her feeling angry and disempowered. Angry that her son can't walk to school safely, and disempowered by the broken promises of the Andrews government to the Footscray community. I am also angry. I was elected to the Maribyrnong Council 20 years ago this month. The big part of my council election platform was campaigning about trucks. The community has seen little to no change regarding heavy vehicles in the decades since. It is so wrong that Elizabeth and her son are still— it's so wrong that cyclists are still being killed by trucks, that Elizabeth is worried about the safety of her kids walking to school, on the very same intersection that I was worried about my kids walking to school 20 years ago. The community have been stonewalled and stymied, with minimal action being taken by the state government in that time. The Footscray community fought hard for the truck curfew in 2015, and it should be upheld. I call upon the Andrews government to adequately enforce the truck curfew, to immediately end all exemptions given to heavy trucks and road trains during the curfew hours in Footscray, and to fulfil their commitment to transport material for the Westgate Tunnel project via rail. And I also call upon the federal government to pressure their Labor colleagues to take these actions, to introduce tough new federal pollution standards for heavy vehicles, and to put in place measures to rapidly shift freight transport to rail and hydrogen and electric trucks to help my fellow residents of the inner west of Melbourne, and indeed across the country, to live safe and healthy lives.